Welcome to the State of the Nation Weekly Update. This week we're going to deal with the fact that the Government of National Unity is going to face its first really stern test. And that is, in this case, that surrounds our Minister of Justice, Thembi Simelane. Now, you would have seen it in the news, and for those that aren't up to speed with what happened, Thembi Simelane used to be mayor of Polokwane, the old Petersburg, and that was one of the municipalities that lent a bucket load of money to VBS Bank, which VBS Bank then was now meant to invest, and we all know that the VBS money ended up getting stolen by a whole range of people, and that's not what this story is about. The fact is that many municipal managers, mayors, etc., that gave money to VBS Bank for them to do their nefarious deeds were in fact incentivized to do it. That has become common knowledge. Well, the mayor of then Polokwane at the time was Thembi Simelane, and surprise, surprise, she lent, if I'm not mistaken, the amount is about 260 million rand of ratepayers' money from Polokwane to VBS Bank. And what was the quid pro quo, to use that term for this, for making the investment to VBS Bank, which was contrary to what the PFMA, which is the handbook that guides, and the MFMA, which is the book that tells those officials what they can and can't do with the money. So in other words, they were breaking the rules to give money to VBS, and they were incentivized to do it. Now, this case is a really interesting one, because what ended up happening was Polokwane actually got their money back. They were one of the few people that didn't lose all of the money that they gave to VBS. They actually got the money back. But that does not make it not wrong. But oddly enough, then Mayor Thembi Nkadimenge, she was then, now Thembi Simelane, got a loan of 575,000 rand to buy a coffee shop in Sandton. Not a coffee shop in Polokwane, a coffee shop in Sandton. And she says that money was a loan. Well, the loan wasn't done through VBS. It was done through one of their agents who is not registered to give loans. So everybody said, well, if it was a loan, show us the paperwork. Show us where you repaid the loan. And oddly enough, she couldn't come up with either the loan agreement or the proof that she had repaid the loan. Well, I don't know about you, but if you receive money from somebody and don't pay it back, it's either one of two things. It's either a gift, or if in the case of a politician, it's a bribe. And this looks like an open and shut case. The figures in this case that this lady got are not dramatic, but the point is that she got the money and she can't answer for it. Now, this story sounds petty, and it sounds like, oh, well, we're picking on there's been, people that have stolen billions. But understand that there's real world implications here, because what did this minister do? She became Minister of Justice. And recently, as recently as 2 weeks ago, a story came out that the Ministry of Justice has been blocking the National Prosecuting Authority from getting files from the investigators for the Zondo Commission. That means that the ministry under Minister Thembi Simelane wouldn't give the prosecuting authority access to the files so that they can prosecute the people that stole the big money at VBA and in the state capture thing. State capture corruption, which we all watch live on TV. We know that billions of rand were stolen. Now, she won't let the prosecutors get access to that. All of that data, all of that proof that shows who took the money, where and when. Now, one can't help wondering if these two issues aren't linked. The fact that she got an illicit loan that she can't prove, which looks more and more, like a bribe. And the fact that she is blocking investigators from getting the files that they need to do their prosecutions. You can't help but make that link. Now, if I can make that link, so can the people in the government of national unity. And it's going to be impossible for the partners to turn the other cheek, to look the other way, to allow brazen corruption to happen on their watch. Now, I've been a proponent of the government of national unity, and I even kind of begrudgingly would say, okay, let's start afresh or something. But we can't have somebody in there right now who is still on the books of somebody else. That's blocking a very important process that, remember, the Zondo Commission cost you and I billions of rand to do all of those investigations. So that the people that stole our money, our taxpayers' money, go to jail. Something has to happen. Now, in true President Cyril Ramaphosa fashion, he says, well, we're going to have a meeting with the minister. And we've seen this movie before. He's going to have a meeting. He's going to sit her down. He's going to say, perhaps she's learnt the error of her ways, or I'm going to suspend her or step aside or something. The point is that action has to be taken. And those government of national unity partners have to hold President Ramaphosa to account for this, or come up with the loan agreement or the repayment. But either way, this looks like the first real test to the government of national unity, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this plays out. We must watch this closely. Don't be fooled by the fact that what's being reported is a small amount of money. Just remember that this is the minister that is blocking access to the prosecuting authority that wants to prosecute the state capture findings. And her department won't give those investigators access. You can't help wondering whether those two incidents are linked. Now, we've mentioned before the fact that many of the other parties in the government national unity, their ministers have been very vocal, very responsive. And, at some point, the ANC ministers are going to have to do something. Well, in true ANC fashion, it happened from a different minister, and that is our Minister of Human Settlements, Momoloko Kubai, who made this most outrageous statement. She said that she released a report, and I'm going to read, this is a report from 2018 to 2022 about home loans that private banks have granted. And the facts are this: 6 million home loans were processed, just over 6 million. And because this is South Africa and we won't let go of certain things, those banks are forced to report on the race of the people asking banks. And as it turns out, 2 million of the loans were asked for by white clients and 4 million for black clients. Well, this is according to her own numbers. Of the 2 million applications by white applicants, 1 million were processed, i.e. 50%. Whereas 2.4 million of the black applicants, of the 4 million applications from black clients, 2.4 million were approved. Okay? 60%. And she said that this is terrible. This is shocking, and this is racism, and the government is going to introduce bigger fines, amend laws, because the banks are being racist. Now, I don't understand where she links that to race. If you are approving more loans from black clients than you are from white clients, if the white clients are previously advantaged, as she says, then surely they should have a higher approval rate. Instead, they've got a lower approval rate. This is just the minister trying to play a card because either she can't do maths, which is possible, or she is just trying to stir the pot and to look like, let's call it, an activist. But either way, it's not a good look to have a minister clearly out of her depth, not understanding how the world works. Now, of course, there is the strangest thing here, and that is that banks are guided by laws that are written by the government. They can't just go and give loans to people. You can't just walk in there and they say, oh, we like the color of your skin, we'll give you a loan. They can't do that. They've got very strict guidelines that they have to operate according to. And that's why our banks are solvent, because they work according to those strict guidelines, as set out by our own government. Now, I'm not sure what this minister will have banks do, but surely banks can only operate according to very strict financial guidelines. Or else what happens? Do we like the look of that person? We give them a loan, the next one? No, it's done on affordability. It's done on means testing. We've all had, many of us have had loans. It's a hell of an experience because, boy, they go through your entire financial history. And it's a very basically cold financial calculation. If we don't want that kind of country, then let's just have anarchy where, where banks just decide who they're going to give loans to. In actual fact, that we've already seen play out. We saw it play out with VBS Bank. So, Minister of Human Settlements, Mamalako Kubai, if you're looking to look like you're doing something, perhaps you should just, look at something else. In other news, let's have a look at what the Umkhonto weSizwe party, the third biggest party in South Africa now, and the official opposition, now that the DA is in the government of national unity. You may recall a week or two ago they got rid of 12 or 15 of their parliamentarians to make space for other people. Those parliamentarians are taking them to court. It's a hell of a mess. But they rolled out their list of people that they're sending to parliament. And the thing that surprised everybody was just who was on the list, because many of those people are people that were seriously tainted with corruption. Brian Molefe, Lucky Montana, Siyabonga Gama, these are people that became synonymous with state capture. Those same corruption files that the National Prosecuting Authority are being kept away from by our Minister of Justice, as full of evidence to say that these were the people that defrauded, that stole our tax money. And now they're being sent to Parliament, getting paid for with our tax money. But I want to think about the politics behind this, because we obviously did a piece recently on Floyd Shivambu leaving the EFF and joining Umkhonto weSizwe. Now, Floyd Shivambu is probably the one EFF member with the biggest cloud over his head with regards to corruption and his involvement in the VBS scandal, him and his brother. So, do you think having a criminal record has become a prerequisite for joining Umkhonto weSizwe and going to Parliament? Because it sure looks like that. Now, it may be titillating and you may get a few column inches. It may seem to be quite exciting, sticking one to the man, and this is where they're going. But I don't know if this is a tactic that has got legs, that's going to make the majority of people say, you know what, we'll rather vote for somebody who may be corrupt than vote for somebody who we know isn't. So it's a very interesting move by Umkhonto weSizwe, where it looks like the much vaunted chess games that Jacob Zuma likes to play. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And politically, I think they're sealing their fate. But hey, maybe they know something that I don't. And then I want to talk about our long-lost cause of Gauteng and its metros. Well, we all had a lot of hope for Action SA, fiercely anti-corruption, very much one of the stalwarts behind the multi-party charter. And now they've thrown in their lot with the ANC Gauteng, which, as you know, is at odds with the ANC mothership. The government of national unity hasn't been something that the Gauteng ANC has supported at all. They kept the DA out of their provincial government. Now Action SA are supporting them, and have supported them already, by electing an ANC mayor in Johannesburg, who then promptly stood up and said, don't expect me to do anything. And now it looks set for Action SA to potentially support a motion of no confidence against Mayor Cilliers-Brink in Tshwane, who up until recently Action SA seemed to be quite happy with. They are making progress in the city of Tshwane. But it's going to be a very interesting play by Action SA, because let's not forget that this was a party that did really well in the 2021 local government elections, but didn't do so well in the 2024 national elections. And we do understand that there's many axes to grind within Action SA against the Democratic Alliance. And perhaps they're just after their votes. Perhaps they're trying to make the DA look inept and in the hope that people would vote to them. We're going to be hearing from Michael Beaumont soon, and we'll be asking him about it. But it certainly does look like while we're still talking about strange politicking, it seems like quite a strange political idea. And let's see if it works for Action SA. They haven't, since the 2021 local government elections, they haven't looked good in the by-elections. As I mentioned, they didn't do well in the 2024 general election. This looks like they may be doing what we've seen before with many of the other smaller parties, where they just throw in their lot with the ANC. It's a safe vote for the ANC. We've seen people like Bantu Alamisa, Patricia de Lille say, use me, abuse me, as long as you pay me. It's going to be a very interesting tactic, but I must say, I was surprised to see them. And while we're on the subject, and I'm going to close off with this, and that is on the subject of Johannesburg, we're recording this the day before rugby, very important rugby international, South Africa versus New Zealand, at our famous old Ellis Park down in the most run-down part of Johannesburg in Doornfontein. And I've got to say, it is quite strange. We are doing some work at the rugby, and I've been up and down past that Ellis Park precinct many times in setting up the work that we're going to be doing there. And the place has looked like Armageddon. It looks like downtown Ukraine. It looks terrible. It looked like a war zone. But suddenly, going there in the week of the test, there are just thousands of people working. And the roads have been marked, and the streets have been cleaned, and the grass has been cut, and the pavements have been repaired. Street lights have been changed. It's stuff we haven't seen in Johannesburg since the 2010 Soccer World Cup. Now, it's a time to celebrate, because people are going to get unbelievably shocked when they go there to this rugby international and see the place in quite good shape. And you realize that within a matter of a week or two, we've been able to turn what has been the worst part of Joburg to look quite good. Well, my real question is, and I don't want to not congratulate good work, so well done, City of Joburg, whoever has been behind it. I do know there's a group of people called Josie My Josie, which is sponsored by Nando's. They've been trying to fix up that area because Nando's are headquartered down there. I want to give credit where it's due. Somebody has done a hell of a job. The question I want to ask is, where are those people going to be next week? Why can't we do this kind of work all the time? Why can't we do this in all the suburbs? Why does it only have to be when there's a rugby international and we're doing it in the precinct around where the rugby international is? Come on, South Africa. Come on, Johannesburg. We can do this level of work all the time. Let's do it. Let's make this place better. Let's just clean it up. It's not that hard. And while we're on the subject of the rugby, go Bokke. We need to beat New Zealand. It'll be a great result. You'll know it. Many of you will know it by the time you watch this. But in the meantime, support Pace Car Rental. Go to their website. Use our code SONA to get a discount. Subscribe to this channel. And thank you so much for joining me on the weekly update.